South Kazakhstan State Pedagogical University, Faculty of Natural Sciences, Department Geography, Subject Economy and Business. Lecture 14 Risks in Business. Questions and Tasks 1. Factors that generate business risk. 2. Ways to reduce risks and management matters. Purpose of the lecture: taxes, state budget, state debt. Basic concepts: finance, tax, state budget, public debt, indirect tax, direct tax. Nature and types of business risk. In the market environment, risk is a key element of entrepreneurship, especially the risk of uncertainty in business. Distrust, mistrust, predictability may hinder the achievement of success. As stated in the law on business, business is based on its own risk, property liability within the legal form of the enterprise. To reduce risk in market conditions, there are several methods: attracting qualified consultants and specialties to develop an entrepreneurial project, the ability to overcome possible pre-project difficulties, forecasting demand for manufactured products, mutual risk sharing by project participants, insurance, maintaining a queue of funds necessary to cover unexpected losses. General conceptual model of risk distribution between the customer and the contractor. There are several types of risk: industrial, commercial, financial, investment, and market. Production risk. This is related to the production and sale of products. This risk includes changes in the set volume of products and the pace of sales, excessive expenditure of material and labor costs. The direct impact is a decrease in the price level on the market, marriage, recommendation, all that jazz. Commercial risk is the fact that an entrepreneur sells purchase products on the market. In the case of a commercial agreement, you should take into account the reduction in price and the additional costs that arise when selling goods. Financial risk occurs in the business of financial entrepreneurship. Replies colleague Maria Victoria: there is no such, the tax is not deducted. Since the employee is on vacation without the content of charges, he does not have respectively and deductions too. Investment risk: this may be an impairment of the company's own and purchase securities. Market risk is related to change in the interest rate of the national currency on the market or the exchange rate of foreign contract partnership. Analyzes the risk for the greatest attraction of potential partners in order to implement the planned project. The same of risk analysis. 1. Determines the impact of internal and the external factors of specific types of risk. 2. Analysis of identified factors. 3. Assessing a specific type of risk in two financial ways. A. Determination of financial stability, solvency. B. Determining the economic efficiency of the fund spent. 4. Determining the expected level of risk. 5. Analysis of the expected risk level of individual operations. 6. Development of risk reduction measures. The second case is identifying the types of risks. 1. Material damage is the production costs that are not provided for by the project, or the direct loss of material objects, products, materials, and raw materials. 2. Harm to work if it occurred for reasons caused by the elimination of working hours, disaster, or unforeseen causes. 3. Financial damage is directly related to monetary damage, payment charges, payment of overdue loans, additional taxes, all that jazz. 4. Deletion time. This means if the business case remains after the project time. 5. Special types of harm are causes when the harm causes harm to human health and the life, the environment, and the reputation of the entrepreneur. Due to political factors slowing business activity, reducing the level of labor and the performance, discipline, violation of payments and the settlements, instability of the tax rate, all the jazz. Any enterprise bears the risk associated with production, commercial or other activities. Any entrepreneur is responsible for the management decisions made by him. The risk factor allows the entrepreneur to save financial and material resources, pay special attention to commercial transactions, and calculate the effectiveness of new projects. Risk factors in business activity, economic instability. According to the classification, the following risk zones are distinguished. 1. The risk-free area. 2. Risk production zone. 3. Critical risk zone. 4. Emergency risk zone. A risk-free zone where there are no costs. The probability of paying in the industry is not expected, or there are losses at zero. The zone where there were costs but in a smaller amount from the expected profit, the risk production zone. Critical risk zone, the amount of losses from which costs exceeds the amount of expected profit, sometimes up to the amount of estimated income. Emergency tackle carry can be in large measure a large number of enterprise property in excess of the critical level of risk from their losses. Risk size. Credit risk-free. Security of non-payment of the corresponding principal and the interest by the borrower. Interest rate risk. Expenses related to the interest of commercial banks, credit transactions, inflationary institution from the funds attracted to them exceeding the established amount of the used loan costs of investors associated with changes in the size of the dividend on shares, bonds, securities, certificates due to an increase in the amount of interest. Inflation risk, the risk associated with an inflationary increase in the received monetary profit from customer demand and the depreciation. If the deflationary risk increases, the price level decreases. When deflation increases, the economic situation of entrepreneurs decreases and the profits decrease. Currency risk is the security of the currency costs associated with it when conducting foreign economic, credit, and currency operation for changing the exchange rate of one foreign currency in relation to another currency of the country. The risk of destruction of possible losses associated with their quality and customer price for the sale of securities of other goods. Opportunity transfer risk, the risk that occurs when financial damage cannot be caused by an unrealized damage. For example, insurance, investment, income reduction risk is a risk that occurs due to a decrease in the amount of interest on portfolio investments, deposits, and loans. Net financial cost risk, the risk associated with implementation or partial implementation of an investment project. The company's risks are divided into short-term and long-term. Long-term risk is associated with the long-term development of the enterprise, including low-cost payments for industrial development and the cost of improving personnel policy. Short-term risk costs for choosing optional contractors, choosing efficient forms of settlement organization in the market environment with the reduced risk. The following methods are used to assess business risk: statistical, expert, computational, and analytical. Statistical methods is study of statistics of losses and income in order to determine the possible conditions, the amount of risk in a particular enterprise or similar enterprises. An opportunity is an opportunity to get a certain result. For example, successful market penetration of a new product. The amount of risk characterized by two indicators: a moderate expected value and a deviation of the expected result. The average expected value is defined as a weighted average of possible conclusions related to unknown circumstances. The expert assessment method is based on expert discussions about possible risks. The characteristics presented on the basis of the expert knowledge and experience in most cases give a specific assessment in order to get access of information for making management decisions, basically without spending a lot of time and labor shifts. The calculation and analysis method is often used when analyzing the risk of a new project. The project is considered as a living organism with its own special stages of development. The project life cycle consists of the following stages: the development stage, the large stage, the growth stage, and the fall stage. By studying the life cycle of a project, you can get information about each stage, identify for unnecessary reasons, and assess the degree of risk. But in practice, it's very difficult to collect such necessary information. In the course of doing business, many costs are unspecified its main directions during the period of production sale and sale of goods damage to the entrepreneur may be caused or material or financial damage may be caused. This determines the risk. The entrepreneur must determine the level of risk and make a decision before starting their business. Entrepreneurial risk refers to the possibility of an entrepreneur losing their resources. Income and finds in the features the following types of business risk distribution are considered. Types of divisions: 1. As a business activity. 2. Depending on the volume. 3. Depending on the source. 4. Depending on the field of education. 5. If possible, insurance. Type of risk: production, commercial, financial, information, local, industry, subjective, objective, internal, external, insured, not insured. Depending on the business activity, the risk is divided into the following types. Commercial risk, determined by changes in the market associated with the sale of goods and services. Financial risk is the risk associated with banks and the financial institution. All this is related to consultation and information support. Depending on the volume, the risk is divided into the following types. Local risk is the risk of private firms, and industry risk is the risk associated with a particular industry. Types of risk sharing depending on the nature of the occurrence. Subjective risk is the risk associated with the entrepreneur's personal qualities. Lack of experience, finances are determined depending on organizational skills, relationships, and people. Adjective risk, the risk associated with external circumstances, lack of information, changes in the market due to natural or force majeure. Inflation rate, changes in taxation. Types of risk sharing depending on the field of education. External risks arise from enforcing changes in economic policy, and internal risk in effective management, incorrect marketing policy, and internal negative situations of the company. Types of risks depending on the possibility of insurance. The obligation of the organization to insure the potential risk in quantitative terms that can be measured and defined. Risks that cannot be insured: there is no information about its level and the forecast is requires a lot of risk and has no consequences for organizations to take it on insurance. 2. Factors affecting the level of business risk. Risk is business influenced by certain factors. The conditions arise under the influence of internal and external factors. In the first case, the entrepreneur can reduce the risk by using effective management. In the second case, it cannot make any changes to the risk level. In a market economy, the main element is a risk to entrepreneurship. If the entrepreneur knows how to take risk in his time, then he will receive a reward for this business. If the risk is not defined, it refers to the action or implies the risk. The main features of risk are the enforcing circumstances, lack of confidence, and achievement. If the country's political and economic conditions are stable, the risk level increases. Two main functions of risk are considered a stimulant and a protector. The risk is related to the cost incurred in connection with the decisions. In the studies of the 20th century, English economist Marshall and presented a neoclassical theory of entrepreneurial risk. Here, the entrepreneur must take into account two criteria when making a certain decisions, which are amount of expected profit, possible changes in profit. According to this theory, the entrepreneur makes the decisions based on the concept of marginal profitability, all that jazz. Chooses the option that can get the most profit, and the risk is the probability that the entrepreneur may in the future additionally spend or reserve income less the amount of the expected income. Methods for determining business risk can be divided into three groups, which are 1. In accordance with the theory of effective management, any activity of people is associated with risk. Since all costs are of an uncertain nature, the following risk properties are considered in this direction. 1. By acquiring general properties, we determine that risk is not related to one activity, it covers the entire activity. When certain risk occurs, some people fear that they are insuring it and losing property, while others hope that this will not work, and others assume the acquisition of material goods by physical trade. 2. According to the system, risk is associated with any target activity. 3. Based on the theory of socioeconomic dynamics, it is possible to estimate and predict the level of risk. 2. The second direction of risk definition considers it as a result of regressive potential. Here special attention is paid to the following risk characterizes the appearance of new qualities, material and spiritual values, but whether now and state in the future, creation of new enterprises, reduction of security conditions with the use of technologies, development of environmental problems along with growth of production potential, all that jazz. 3. In the third direction of risk definition, risk is considered as an uncertain state of the result of economic activity. The following risk features are considered here: inequality, hierarchical complexity. Due to the absence of process in a moderate state, the theories allow deeper research on the occurrence and the formation of risk. If the risk is considered a division under normal conditions, then in an uneven state you can fairly find out its causes. At the same time, business risk is considered as is mismatch of the result expected by the entrepreneurial deviation and failure to achieve goals. When reaching the goal, you have to make a lot of decisions, but even the lower costs large returns, it's impossible to find a solution exactly. So it develops a risk situation, a large number of options when making decisions. Inequality creates a situation. In the process of risk management, they are divided into random hierarchical ones. In the first case, this is determined by the current conditions, and the second case, it is related to the authorities because the entrepreneur operates in a certain macro center and must take into account the conditions of the external environment. For example, when building your strategy, you need to take into account government policies, the level of inflation, and the situation on the labor market. A comprehensive risk study can look at their impact in all costs rather than their individual impact. For example, if you buy a large number of securities, the risk level will be higher, and if the portfolio contains several securities, the risk level will be significantly reduced, and there will be fewer losses. In the course of business, many decisions are made under conditions of risk. However, the manager, if there is no high profit, often takes risks, but even in the case of risk, you cannot avoid it, only you need to identify it in a timely manner and to give a correct assessment. Risk management is the management of risk situations and thus ensuring the sustainable operation of the enterprise.